Good evening, folks, and here we are again. I want to thank you once again for letting us into your homes this evening, and we have a great show tonight. The title of tonight's show is Challenges and Opportunities for the Underprivileged. We are living in some very challenging times, and we just want to cover some subjects, leadership development, emotional, educational needs, community building, cooperative economics, and long-term financial improvement. Some things that we believe might be helpful to people trying to get back in the game or get in the game, to begin with. Our panel for tonight, we have our regulars, Vero Majid, Mike Shomo, myself, Robert Vaughn, and then we have our sometimes regular, Janice Vaughn from Michigan, and she'll be joining us tonight. And say hi, Janice.
Hello, everyone.
Okay.
Hi.
All right. So, these are challenging times, and challenging times don't necessarily have to mean bad times. What they mean is sometimes you have to step up to the plate, and you may have to do things a little differently. You may have to work a little harder. For instance, the music business. There are people. People say, "Well, the music business is dead because of COVID." There's still people making money. They're doing music for TV shows. They're doing music licensing agreements for jingles. They're doing virtual shows. So there still are opportunities, and we want to talk about some of them tonight. So leading off tonight will be Mike Shomo. Mike's going to discuss leadership development and support. So it's all yours, Mike.
Thanks, Rob.
Mhm.
First of all, I'd like to say, happy Black History Month, and be sure to engage in some type of educational things with your children and family to make sure that our history lives on, and the knowledge is passed from generation to generation. Uh, Challenges and opportunities for the underprivileged, meaning mostly the minorities and people without the means to basically have the basic things in life, to live on a scale that is, for like living wages and being able to work, that they could have something else to save and invest. Because now people that are working are basically just working just to survive, just to have a place to live and pay your gas bill, your electric bill, your car note, and those that have cars, and those people that can move around, and those who have jobs. The first thing that we have to do is try to develop our young people into leadership roles, to get them into fields where they can advance our people and the cause. And those leaders that are there now, that we need to question them, and to help them, and to encourage them to do the things that would help us, help our people, and make a difference in the development of our leaders, to have support, and to encourage our young people to take leadership roles. Start with student government, to understand what the Constitution is. White people teach their children how, to work the Constitution. We were left out of the Constitution because we were only considered as 3/5 of a human being. But it's time that we learn the Constitution, and for them to go into politics, and to understand, and maybe even major in constitutional law, and make sure that we are protected, that our leadership is sound, and we can have something to stand on. Because like right now, we can't even say who our leaders are. We can't even say that. We know we have good people in Congress, we have good people in city government, but we have some people that just have the job and don't really care, to care about our people, and the support. We have to give our leaders support. They have to support us when we have interest. We have to be able to go to our leaders and say, hey, we need this, this, and this. and if you can't do it for us, tell us how can we get it done? If I got to bring 30 people up here to back me up and let you know that this is a problem or this has to be solved, we go up there with a consortium of people and say, okay, well, let's get this done. Leadership, it has to be a situation where they basically take care of 4 different areas like environmental, social, economical, and psychological, because these are the things that that fuel our community. These are the things that we have to take care of and understand before we can take care of the problem. So, leadership and development is for our elders to pass on to our young people and support the people that's already in there.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, Mike. How does someone become a leader? Because a lot of times people try to appoint people leaders, and that doesn't seem to work too good.
Well, leaders, they come about kind of like in a natural form. You have people that can lead by their knowledge and their actions. That they have positive energy. They have positive energy and they can get things done. And then you say, well, that's a leader. People to say, well, okay, then I'm going to appoint this person a leader, and they don't have leadership qualities, or even,
I think we have some background noise there somewhere. Somebody talking in the background.
Can you hear Ronnie?
Yeah.
Ronnie. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Mike.
It's when they always say that leaders are made, not chosen.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
because when you look up and you see somebody leading the way, and then you have people who can arise as a leader or have leadership qualities, and the people who don't have leadership or don't understand what's going on or how leaders are made, they try to put them down, say, hey, we don't know, this person is trying to take over, but the thing is that person don't hear all that stuff in their ear all the time and just go ahead and do what they're supposed to do, and they get things done and they lead by example, as far as instead of just lip service.
Right, I agree. And I think that I can appoint you as a general, but the men that you supervise have to anoint you a leader. They have to recognize you as being a leader.
Exactly.
I think a lot of times they try to say, well, this is your leader or that's your leader. And you can't tell somebody who their leader is. The people have to choose a leader. And I guess that's why, a democratic process in voting is so important.
Well, and it's basically there's a theory or a train of thought or a house, but there's a model, and it's called the ADKAR, ADKAR.
Mhm.
And it was done by this group called Prosky or something like that. But they did over like 1,300 businesses and stuff with the best practices over 1,300 organizations in like 59 different countries. And if I may be off 1 or 2 countries, don't hold it against me.
Okay.
But the ADKAR stands for stands for something, and it says the first is awareness, and it says aware that there's a change needed, and then the D is for desire, is to support and participate in the change, and then the K is for knowledge. You have to know how to change, and then the other A is for ability, to implement the new skills and behaviors, and then the R is reinforcement to sustain the change. So when you have when you're talking about leadership and doing things done, usually it's about change. We got to change. So
Right.
The ADKAR was one of the things that one of the models that they were used in that.
Okay. So a leader has to be a change agent.
There you go.
Okay.
And
All
you
right.
know, and see, there's two types of changes. There's incremental changes and there's you know, total change. You know, like drastic change, like all of a sudden, you know, like they say, incremental changes is like death by 1,000 cuts.
Right, right, right.
Okay.
Like evolution and revolution.
All right. All right. Well, now we're going to move on to Janice, and she's going to speak a little bit about the need for education in terms of meeting some of the challenges and taking advantage of some of the opportunities for people who are underprivileged. So Janice, you got the floor. Let's talk about education.
Okay. My thrust on education is going to be how broad education is. And we're not just talking about academia right now. We're not just talking about, although we can't devalue any of the education that's available to us, whether that's your advanced degree, your college degree, your associate degree, your high school diploma. You can't dismiss any of it. But we're going to take a broader sweep, and we're not just going to talk about the advantage of academia, even though that advantage is so key to what we do and how we progress in life. But there's also a piece of education sometimes that I think we overlook. And in this climate, as we're talking about, and going back to what Mike was saying, in this climate, we need another hammer, if you will, to drive our progress home.
Okay.
And that hammer, to me, is activism. We've talked about a lot of times.
Political education.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely. When we talk about leadership, when we talk about community, when we talk about our needs, even as a societal needs, as our cultural needs, we need to be aware. And that awareness is not always, which we touched upon, found in our history books. It's not always found in our classrooms. We know that there's education that we can get from just participating, being a part of what's going on in the society, in the greater scheme of things, and not just in our classrooms and not just in our textbook. And to me, that's what true education is, being prepared to deal with what we're facing. And what we're facing right now, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, is truly a crisis. We're not saying just because we elected Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the president and vice president, we're talking about now we're at a crux. We're at a crux, and I don't think anybody would underestimate that crux. We're at a turning point. Some people said it started with the death of George Floyd, that this turning point became so pivotal for us. But now it's so much larger, the whole picture of that. And so in terms of education, I would suggest, I really would, that you, not only do you pay attention to what's in the school books, and not only do you stress the need for a higher degree or higher education, I really think it's important for us to engage the entire community in our learning, because our communities is where we grow, we raise our children, we live, and we survive. That's, I mean, we're on the world stage, but this is where we live in our communities. So part of that learning has to be to reach deep into our history. And if that's not being taught in school, our financial needs, Black banks, investments, all of this information, believe it or not, is accessible to many of us right online. There's no excuse. We should be sitting around our dinner tables like we used to do when we were families. We should be sitting around our dinner tables and
Good old
educating
days, huh?
our children.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
should be turning off some of that, what do we call it?
Social media.
That hip swinging, jerk popping, all of that. nonsense.
They
All
don't
of that nonsense.
So you mean Lil Wayne is not my leader, and I've been thinking all this time
No,
I should follow Lil
absolutely
Wayne?
not. We have to direct, we have to redirect our thinking. We didn't always think this way. We
Okay.
didn't.
Yeah, see, instead of twerking your butt, twerk your mind. Twerk your mind.
Okay, I like
And
that.
we have a responsibility. And I sometimes think that we've failed in that respect. I mean, our community centers shouldn't just be used for basketball and swimming and tennis. Our community centers need to become learning hubs and teaching hubs. And we need to insist, not ask, but we need to begin to insist that our children do something different.
Well,
If they're on these computers 4 hours out of a day, you better believe 2 of those better be in an educational forum.
can I interject for just a minute?
Please.
Back when Nehru was elected in India, and he was the one that abolished the caste system. And when he went around and he was looking at his country, and he wanted everybody to go to school, so he mandated that, because remember the caste system with the untouchables, they couldn't go to school, they couldn't even be around people. But when he abolished the caste, they were not allowed to school, but he made sure that they were in school. Now, the next thing is that when he went around to the school and sat in the schools and found out that they were math deficient, that India was the math deficient. So what he did was he mandated that I think he got people from Africa and other places, England, and what they did is they upgraded their math system. Now, right now, today, there's an Indian that sit on every tech company in America.
Wow.
Sit there. The Indians are and the Africans, they are the best math people, and because the Arabs gave us the decimal system. They gave us the decimal point stuff. But with all that taken into consideration, that is the Indians now that have the best math people ever. They have people like engineering math is the highest math in America. They're teaching engineering math in junior high school kids in India. Okay, but what I'm saying is that that's a third world country, and it can be done.
It can be.
But they go back to miseducating us. They don't look at us. They want to keep us as the same at a certain level, and that's what it is. But like
it's not just they want to keep us at that level. You do know this. I mean, we know this because we know this part of our history.
Right.
We weren't always allowed to read. We didn't always we couldn't go into a library. Schools reading was not something that we always had access to. I mean, it isn't.
We had our people who were killed for reading. We had our people who were killed, ourselves. And lynched for reading and teaching people how to read. In fact, right now, one of the things that they're looking at Biden's proposal, President Biden's proposal, with all due respect, for the 1.9 billion, the $1.9 billion budget. One of the main points that the Republicans are rejecting is the money being funded for public schools. Now, most of their kids, all of their kids are in private schools.
In private schools.
Not all of them, but you have some good public schools. They just exist in certain areas. I know.
What I'm saying is they don't want to put that. They say, well, we gave them 110% of what they asked for before. But when they ask for something, they probably figure, well, this is what they'll go for. But the thing is, put the money into the schools. Put it in there. Let's see what happens.
Well,
I agree.
Established, there's definitely a challenge and an opportunity for more education, not just, of course, formal education, because if you are not proficient in math, you won't be proficient in data analytics, you won't be proficient in engineering, you won't be proficient in a lot of the sciences that are kind of like running the world now. You can't do the algorithms, the AI algorithms, and you won't understand them. So, social media all guys at the top of those companies are mathematicians.
Right.
They're data scientists. You know what I'm saying? The math is sort of the basis of data science. You know, and you have to definitely have a formal education as well as a knowledge itself. I guess I would say. You know,
Mhm.
and kind of like, you know, say if you know, if you don't know where you've been, then you can't know the direction you're going in. You know, so it's
That's
good
true.
to have a knowledge itself. Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's true.
Burl, talk to us about community building and cooperative economics.
Right. It was nice following Mike and Janice because they kind of set the stage because both of those things are really needed for us to get to the point of community building and economics. You
Mhm.
know, one of the dictionary definitions of community building, they
Can you turn it
co-
up a little bit, Burl? I'm having a hard time hearing you. Yeah. If you
oh,
could,
I'm sorry.
yeah, crank your volume up.
Is it better now?
I
Yeah,
can hear him
yeah, that's
fine.
good. Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, that's better.
Yes.
Let me move in a little bit.
Okay.
But anyway, you know, the cooperative economics involves an autonomous associations of persons, you know, united in a voluntary way to, you know, meet the social and economic, cultural needs and aspirations of a community. You know, but like I say, it's got to start with leadership, and it's got to also start with education. And the United States is lagging so far behind other countries, you know, for reasons that all of you have pointed out. You know, so the main thing is it's really how do we engage our children and
Hey,
you know through
Burl, not to cut you off, but we're having a hard time hearing you.
oh
I don't know
really
if you could maybe get closer to the mic or something.
okay let
Yeah.
me see
I don't know why. Yeah.
better now.
Yeah, it's a little better. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe the people in the background back there making too much noise.
Yeah. Tell them to
Oh,
go home, man. Yeah.
Yeah, tell them they've been here too long. Tell them to go home.
right. And you know, and going back to leadership, real leadership. I remember Carter G. Woodson in the Miseducation of the Negro said it involves service. So we got to kind of find leaders that are not interested in, you know, just sound bites and press releases and photo ops, but people who really want to make some substantive changes in our community. One of the other things too about building a community, you know, and we're just coming out of Kwanzaa, and Karinga had said it basically was the I'm trying to remember what was it Ojama the Swahili word.
For
Taking personal
Kwanzaa,
responsibility, yeah. Uplifting the community to build and maintain the community, to make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems, and to solve them together. You know. So this is what it's got to be about. It's a either we're all going to rise together or we'll all fail together. So what I'm finding is that one of the things that we have to deal with also is the fact that the institutionalized things that are in place that block us. I was reading just today about a part of Manhattan Beach that was once owned by blacks. Blacks had a resort there, and whites became envious and burned it down. Blacks they had bought this stretch of beach because most of the beach was not off limits to black people. And this is one of the things we run into every time we so-called do pull ourselves up by our bootstraps or put our resources together and buy something or build something. A group of the dominant community, European Americans, will come in there and steal it or burn it down or scare us away. And so this is the real problem with our success because this way we can't pass on any generational wealth, which is what we got to do to really get ahead. And it's interesting about collective economics because recently we saw something in the news, this Reddit or this GameStop thing, and Robinhood and the trading, and the big guys who were trying to short the market now got angry because some small investors were starting to make money, and now they're limited to buying like one share. It's showing that all the time that the big guys are kind of in cahoots with some of these groups, and you know it's just really blocking the small guy out.
Mhm.
So collective economics, it's got to happen, and I think not just for African Americans, but even though we got to have our own thing, but
Mhm.
progressive and you know like-minded people that want to do things and are basically understand that they're poor people are in the same boat as a lot of black people are. So it's in all of our interest to kind of try to move forward as much as we can.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I think one of the things though, one of the biggest things, problems we've had though, is the fact that there was, like the fact that J. Edgar Hoover was trying to destroy black leadership when he was in power. And I mean, for the government to sign off on something like that, to me, that tells us from way back when, from the time we got here and on, they had no intention of ever seeing us get ahead. Now, see, cooperative economics also goes back from the time we got here. Blacks didn't have a lot of resources, but they would pool what they had to even the extent where they would put money together. If the slave master was willing, they could buy someone's freedom. That person get the freedom and go up north and work or whatever, send some resources back and bring it on. So it's been an ongoing thing. In later years, when banks would loan us money, we had the numbers of it. Those were the people who financed houses and cars and other projects and businesses. They were our banks.
Right.
And thanks to them, one of the oldest black newspapers in the country, the Call-in Post, got started. Because as W.O. Walker, one of the founders, and publishers that told me, if it wasn't for them, he wouldn't have got a dime. He tried lawyers, he tried black doctors and other black professionals, and said, you're not going to make a penny. But when he went to the numbers, when they said, how much do you need? Okay, man, go start your paper. And that kind of thing. So our methods of cooperating have been around for a long time. And I'd like to see more, but now we see the athletes, entertainers, they have a lot of the money. And there's other guys like the woman who owns the radio stations. I'm trying to think of her name. Mike, you probably know. Can't think of it. But Robert Johnson, people like that. There are people who have money, like Oprah and other folks. A lot of it related to broadcasting, entertainment, athletics. But we got to see that it's in our best interest to start our own bank. It's a shame that we don't have banks. When I go to Los Angeles, you can go like Midtown, Korean banks, Japanese banks, Chinese banks, Indian banks, Jewish banks. Where's the black banks? What's the problem? One thing, from Haiti, a lot of the time they'll come over and they'll have an interest in starting something that find a block, one store, they got the one next to it, and on until they own the whole block. But they have a sense of community, working together, bigger goals, and they're coming from Haiti, the poorest country on the planet, still being blocked from getting a lot of the things they need.
Okay.
So I think we've got to get in the heads of the young children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews, and get them to come together and work together. Then when we get enough, it's a matter of just connecting the dots. Hey, let's meet in this church basement and let's put this plan together. Let's look at things that Dr. Claude Anderson and other people like Tony Brown talked about, what Farrakhan is talking about. And let's do something. Marcus Garvey had a plan for us. They did forward to him. There's a concerted interest. It's not talked about, but for as long as we've had any kind of leadership, they would kill them, run them away, or whatever. And recently, I was looking at how many activists have been killed in this country, and like 100 came up. Some names we know, some names we don't know. We got the Medgar Evers and Martin Luther Kings and Malcolm X and people like that, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. So it's not spoke about now, and we've got a good opportunity. We've got a president who at least says he's progressive, and we'll see. With Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we see a cabinet that looks more like America, and a lot of women, a lot of minorities, or so-called minorities, I'll say, people of color.
Mm-hmm.
But this is an opportunity. But like Janice was saying, activism, we cannot just say, okay, we've arrived, we're good, we're here. We got to hold these people's feet to the fire because we want to see some results. And we got to be a part of those results. And the other thing is, whatever we know or whatever we plan to do, clone ourselves, get some young people and get them involved. We're not going to be here all the time, but somebody else has to continue this message. So that's what it's about.
Okay.
Well,
all right. Well, go ahead, Mike. Did you have something to say?
Yeah. I love everything that y'all say, but the thing is that, we got to get the people to hear and understand what they're, it's not about, the rap music or jumping up and down or doing crazy stuff. It's about putting a plan together, You know, like I was talking to Khalid Samad one day, and he was saying, you know, what do you think this crazy stuff? I said, well, this is the thing, Khalid. We, you know, when we came up, we had a code of ethics. These kids now, and these young people, they don't understand a code of ethics. You know, we had certain things that even if you were doing dirt, that there was things you didn't mess with old people, you didn't mess with crippled people, you didn't mess with, you know, you didn't do, you know, mess with people in your neighborhood and stuff like that. These people they just wild and crazy. It's like the wild west, you know. My wife asked me, she says, what do you think, what are you thinking about? And I said, we was laying in bed, I said, I just wish I could just go to bed one night without hearing gunfire.
Mm.
You know, I'm hearing gunshots. I live in the Buckeye area. I'm hearing gunshots every night, you know. But this is what happened. Then the next day they start shooting in the daytime. I was just like, okay, why are we shooting? Why are we killing each other? Why are we doing it? You know,
it's crazy, man. Yeah, it's crazy.
because you know, then you go to jail, and then you know, you shoot somebody, you go to jail. You know, them people ain't coming back. I don't care what, you know, you see it in the rap video, you see it in the movie, and next thing you know, you see these same people in another movie, and you think, oh, I can kill somebody. They be back next week. No.
But you know, violence now, especially murders, are at like a 25-year high for 2020.
Yeah.
You know, violence and murders are like at a 25-year high, and that's in every city and every state.
But
it's not localized. It's not just the inner city. It's not just.
see, you sounded like Mayor Jackson now.
No, I mean it is across the board. You know, I was looking at some stats
It's
today.
everybody. It's
I was looking at some
everywhere.
stats today, and it's just I knew it was probably ticked up a little bit, but I didn't know it was, you know, it was like a 25.
But when do we stop it? These are somebody's children doing
But
it.
see that's the whole community piece there. That's something that has to, you know, the people have to stop it in the community. You know,
These
you have
cats ain't
to,
bad.
yeah.
I remember we had a big drug problem over when I lived on 96 and Miles.
Mhm.
And I remember getting up in the middle of the night
Mhm.
and going to the corner in my underwear. Say, hey man, you can't sell drugs on my corner, man. You can't do that. You know, my kids are in danger. They come, you know, we had a big dope house on the corner, 3 houses from me. And one night a guy came in our house, you know, just the drug house. Now, whoever, you know, kept my door unlocked, you know, I'm really, you know, ballistic about that. But I went to the dope man. I said, look, man, I said, you got to move your operation, man, because you got people driving up here. He said, nah, man, you know, I don't care who you is. It ain't about who I am. I
But
said,
see, that communities, drug houses exist because communities allow them to exist.
I told the dude to move, and I said, if you don't move, I'm gonna call the police. He didn't move. I called the police. The police wanted to give me a snitch number. I said, I don't need a snitch number. You know, I'll tell you who I am. You know, so what they did was is that they raided the house because they watched the house for a while, you know, and then they was busting people that was buying drugs, you know, and they signed an affidavit or something and say that's where they got the dope from, bust the house. They found over $250,000 worth of, you know, worth of heroin and amphetamines and all kind of stuff, man, and $100,000 in cash. And they was talking, well, if you had to get a stitch number, you could have got paid. I just wanted them out the neighborhood. That's all. But see, all that to say is that you got to take a stand. My family was in danger.
Well, looks like we lost Janice. I don't know if she had a bad connection or something, but I'm sure she'll probably be back. Okay, now I'm gonna talk a little bit about something I think is important: long-term financial improvement. A lot of issues, not all issues, but a lot of issues are related to poverty. You know, many issues are related to poverty. When you take poverty out, the lower the unemployment level is, the less crime you have. You know, because people are too busy working to go rob a store. You know, I mean, you're going to have people that do that anyway. So I think long-term financial improvement for a community, particularly, you know, an underprivileged community, is really of utmost importance. You know, I think beginning with home ownership. We've heard so many times that home ownership is sort of the basis of generational wealth. You know, if you can pay off a $300,000 or $400,000 house, and then you hand it down to me, and maybe I could sell a house and use $250,000 to start a business and go live in a $150,000 house until I get things going, and then I will accumulate some wealth and I'll pass it down to my kids. So generational wealth, home ownership is sort of at the crux or at the basis of generational wealth. I think also with home ownership, there has to be a lot of financial education. I know Verl and I, we talk about this a lot, how, I wish I had been part of that GameStop. I wish I'd have known enough to get on that GameStop.
Don't we all?
That was
It's
a
too late.
that was a fluky
Yeah,
statement.
once it hits the news, it's too late. Once it's out there, it's too late.
That was like a
But,
fluke.
but some people were on top of that, and the stock market is really gambling. And the reason that Robinhood stopped selling because Robinhood lost about $1 billion shorting stock. And there was one investment house that lost almost $15 billion. And another one, I think they lost like half their value because they were betting that the stock went down. So the people in the group said, you know what, we're gonna
drive it up.
Yeah, we're gonna drive the price of stock up. Why don't everybody, and there's like 4 million people in this group, this Reddit group, they said, let's just all start buying stock. And see, everything now is done by program trading, by algorithms. So there's nobody sitting there saying, oh, well, maybe some people are just buying the stock to drive the price up. It's just when they see volume and activity, that the price automatically goes up. It's programmed, the price automatically goes up. They see more volume, and then see if you're a short seller, say you're betting, you're borrowing the stock and you sell it, and you say, well, I'm betting this will go down. Well, if it goes up, once you've lost the value of the stock you borrowed, then you have to go buy the stock back, and you have to give it back to the person you borrowed it from. But you may have bought it at 20, but maybe now it costs you 80 to buy it back. So you just lost 4 times.
That equity call, yeah. Hey, but you know what was interesting? Something you said. Okay, so all these investors get together. Basically the big guys are beating these big hedge funds. The little guys end up beating these big hedge funds.
Mhm.
That makes me think they're leveraged too far with their profits and what have you. Because here where these guys just came in with this little sneak attack, they all get together and collectively said, let's try this and see what happens. And they hit.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? A lot of hedge funds, the reason they short that stock, because they know that that'll drive the price down. If enough big money guys short a stock, if every investment house is saying, you know what, I'm betting Apple stock goes down because of A, B, C, and D, and everybody says that, and then everybody starts selling stock, then it will go down. What makes stock goes up is everybody starts buying. Everybody gets an option to buy it when it goes up. When people start buying it, it starts going up. And see, they manipulated the market for so long that they just got outsmarted. That's all. They just got outsmarted.
It's never. I mean, they can manipulate it anyway, because remember back years ago, they had back in the 70s and 80s, they were a lot of people that were investing, the athletes and people who had money, and they were giving minorities the really crappy stock deals, and they were losing money, which means that they were losing money, but the stockbrokers and stuff were making still the same commission and everything.
Mhm. Right.
It goes to how much racism that's involved in everything, because you remember it was Leroy Kelly now who had the Burger Kings that they wouldn't get no coupons, and they would give them the worst places, and they would get no support from the corporate office and stuff.
Mhm.
So remember it was a group of them, Tidmore, Leroy Kelly, and then them that they had to sue, and get paid for that. Because I remember.
And it's interesting, Mike. Interesting you mentioned that, because at first, remember, franchises like McDonald's would not even let a black person buy a McDonald's franchise until Jim Raplin and Rabbi Hill started that protest down there on Kinsman
Right.
at one of those first McDonald's in town, and got them to come around.
Right, but for black ownership, I think the first one I think was like 1968 or 69. Remember, they started in the 50s, but it wasn't until like late 60s, early 70s when they really started giving minorities, McDonald's and stuff.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that? This is a case of a corporation basically saying you Negroes cannot run a
Right.
store.
Right.
So I mean, and the fact that they block us and they're projecting this on us, many of us begin to believe it too, except for the ones who said we're going to stand up and protest. If we can buy these hamburgers, yeah, we could run anything,
But in terms of long-term financial improvement, I think there needs to be. I mean, we see, it's amazing how many young entrepreneurs that we see now. But
right.
you see all kind of young entrepreneurs. I ran into a young lady the other day, 26 years old, has 2 beauty shops that cater to children. And that's something I haven't seen before. I was like, he has a beauty shop that cater to kids, and kids go there.
You see signs say don't bring your kids. Don't
Yeah, well, she has 2 beauty shops that cater to kids.
Right.
So I think that's I mean, and you have all kind of young. So it's good to see people being more entrepreneurial. I think that's good, and I think that's when you talk about long-term financial improvement. One thing about working for someone is I know Bill Cosby said once, they said, well, don't you feel bad, about making all this money, blah blah blah, and his reply was, nobody that ever wrote me a check makes less than I do. So
right.
the bad thing about working for somebody, you're never going to make, the system's not designed for you to make more than them. You're always going to be down. So, if you really want to, if you look at the people that really are making a ton of money, they're people that build companies and take them public. Right. If you want to make $1 billion, that's probably the easiest way, not easiest way, but probably one of the ways you can make $1 billion is to build a company up and get acquired by Facebook or Apple or somebody. And you have a lot of billionaires made that way.
Yeah, but you know what, Robert? Still, even small businesses, they kind of they feed a lot of families. They employ a lot of people too.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, like you guys were mentioning a minute ago about these new black businesses over on Larchmere in Cleveland. A lot of like 3 or 4 black restaurants, a couple up in Shaker Square, and some down at the Grin. So some black people are getting that entrepreneurial bug, and I think we got to talk about it more to encourage, inspire, and get people to support the ones we have and encourage others.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. Is the whole key word is support. The whole thing is support, and we have to change. We have to change our people's thinking about minority-owned businesses and stuff. Because it go back to the Willie Lynch speech and everything. They you look at people and they say, oh, I'm not going. A guy told me a long time ago. A guy I used to work for. He said, Caucasian man, he'll go out and he'll get a business and he'll buy him a Cadillac and he'll wear a suit and saying people will do business with him. His people would do because he looks successful. He said, first thing, a black man do the same thing, and his own people be like, oh man, I ain't paying for that dude's Cadillac. Oh man, he think he better than everybody else because he got their own business and stuff.
But that's called nowadays they call that hateration.
Well, that's been the whole thing.
Haters in the building. And you're always going to have haters. As a matter of fact, I got a chance to meet Katy Perry one time at a concert she was doing, and she was talking about how she put the song out that had I don't know how many millions of views, but it had 80,000 people wrote bad reviews about the song. And she said, when you don't have haters, you're not successful. Right. Haters confirm your success.
Confirm your success.
You're gonna get a certain percentage anyway.
Yeah, that was an interesting observation, But I think things like like investments, and this is all falls under that financial education umbrella. I think I met this guy once, and he was very frugal, and he worked at a factory. He had probably amassed about $6 or $7 million. He owned a couple of McDonald's, and he was so frugal that he wouldn't even hire anybody to clean him up. He'd leave work, leave one job, and when the McDonald's closed, he would clean it up. He would mop. He would clean the bathrooms, and he was very successful. But his whole thing was, the only way you can attain money and success is you will have to save money, and you have to rid yourself of vices. Like he didn't drink, he didn't play the lottery, he didn't waste money at restaurants. That's what he looked. He looked at it as wasting money. Now that may have been going a little overboard, but I think his point was well taken. He didn't every dime he saved, he would invest in the stock market, and he would buy blue chip stocks, that always paid a dividend, like Alcoa, General Motors, or something, And over the long run, he said, you won't get rich in 3 or 4 years. He said, but over the long run, you'll make a lot of money. And he did. I mean, he bought Alcoa stock. We worked at Alcoa, and the stock split 3 different times over about a 15-year period. And every time he made out like a bandit, and always went up to the level it was before it split. So, I think, investing money, is really important. You have to be able to save money. You have to be able to invest money. And I think one shocking thing that you hear a lot is, that there are, I forget what's the percentage of people that can't come up with $400 for an emergency. And these are people that work, but I think it's like, I don't want to be wrong, but I think it was like somebody said most people or something, or it's a pretty high percent, pretty close to 50%. People had a financial emergency, couldn't come up with $400 without borrowing it on a credit card, or they didn't have any money saved.
See, that's the people. Those are the people living from paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
They don't have. Well, I'm not gonna say they don't have any disposable income, but obviously they're not frugal enough or not using the money in the right way.
Right.
There's a friend of mine, a young lady, who sometimes she borrows money from me, but when she has, she works at Amazon. These expensive tennis shoes, she's got to have every pair. So I tell her, like, look, you wouldn't have to borrow money from me if you would put some money away, and it'll just curb your spending a little bit.
But it's a mindset. It's a mindset.
But it's like I was saying, it's environmental, because they see other people with that stuff. Like, I got a grandson, and he had a little job at Popeye's Chicken, and he came in, and one day he was staying with me, and he bought some $300 shoes called Yeezys or something like that, and they would really look like them Chinese wooden shoes that they wear. He looked like that, and I said it was $300. I said, man, you can't afford no $300 shoes. I said, see, the thing is that you don't pay rent here, you don't bring no food into the house, you don't do none of that, but you can spend $300 on a pair of shoes, And the next week he was, granddaddy, can I borrow $20 from you? I said, come on, man. I said, you want to
give me those shoes? I'll buy those shoes. I'll buy those shoes for $50.
Put them shoes up for collateral.
Yeah. But and that's all part of a financial education. Somebody sent me a meme a little while ago. It was Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and Zuckerberg were standing around talking, and the caption was, 300 billion in one picture and not a Gucci belt in sight.
That says it all.
And that says it all. Not a Gucci belt in sight. I mean, if that doesn't, doesn't say it.
I don't know if you remember Michael Jordan was walking down the street with his wife or his girlfriend, the new one, after he got divorced and stuff. And he was walking down the street and crossing the street, and they had a picture on one side about a young boy had his $300 tennis shoes on, and all Michael Jordan had on was some deck shoes. And he said, like, so he's not even wearing his shoes, them deck shoes.
I know.
And one of the you can waste money. You can waste a lot of money.
Oh yeah. That's
just like you can waste money. I know one time I used to like to have lot of jewelry. And don't ask me why, because it's like, and then one day I said, this is the
Because
stupidest
everybody else
thing.
was wearing it.
I
Everybody
said,
else.
this is the stupidest thing
Right.
to you know, because I really, if you have a Breitling watch on, if you have a $7,000 watch, you should have $7 million in the bank. You know what I'm saying? And then you
Right.
you can afford, you know, and I said, man, this doesn't make sense. You
Hey,
know,
a old hustler told me one time, long time ago, I was about 20 years old. He said, hey, you don't have nothing sitting in your driveway costs more than your house.
more than your house.
Right.
And you see that all the time, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, Mercedes parked in front of the project.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
But let me tell you, you see that all the time. You ride past Morris Black or something, man.
yeah.
You see a Mercedes in there,
S
or
class, yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I was
but-
thinking about
you
that a
see
long time ago.
you see a Maybach in there. I'd be like,
But you know what? People think they are their stuff. You know,
Mhm.
if you don't
Yeah.
have something material, you ain't nothing. You know.
okay,
There's I watched a good program the other day on minimalism about these people that try to um, get excess things out of their life. You know, like
Right.
things you don't really need. You know,
Right.
you don't really need a 10-carat diamond bracelet. I mean, you know, I mean, it serves no purpose. And that money could be invested or, you know, and you know, you don't really need an Escalade. You know, you could get, if you want a big truck, you could get a Tahoe for half the price. It'll probably last you longer, you know.
and
But
if you got your own business, you could almost get it for free because there's a big tax break for
yeah,
for
for
getting them.
6,000-pound vehicles and over, yeah,
Right, right.
yeah.
Hey, you know,
But
it's
you know,
funny what you mentioned about minimalism.
Mm.
I'll give you a good example. There's a woman from Beverly Hills, a white woman,
Mhm.
who moved to East Cleveland not too long, a couple of years ago. Lives down the street from Ed Parker and those guys, you know, the artists. And Beverly Hills to East Cleveland because she saw she could get a big house for cheap, fix it up, and I guess take that money and transfer it somewhere else. You know, like you're saying,
Yeah,
for an investment.
Put it in the stock market.
yeah. And so there, you know, there's you know, financial education is really so important. Entrepreneurship is you know, you gotta, if you want to run with the big dogs, you gotta own. You know, that's just like, you know, in the, I had some guy tell me in the music business, you know, one time he said, you know, if you want to be filthy rich, he said, you got to think like an owner. You have to own things. You got to own your music. You got to you know, own your content. You have to own the brand of your artist. So you got to think like an owner. So those are guys that get rich. He said musicians, you know, he said the musicians drive, you know, Mercedes, you know, and he said, and the owners, you know, drive, what's that car that Kanye bought for $2 million, you know, the little sports car, I forget. But he said, you know, he said it's a different level. And
Right.
he said you have to, you know, you have to look at it as like, you know, you're an entrepreneur and you're not just creating music, but you actually want to own the music. And I thought it was pretty interesting because he, you know, he wouldn't participate in anything where he couldn't be the owner. And he was very successful.
Well, you say, now, Robert, see, this is what we're talking about education.
Mhm.
I'm going to ask both of you guys this question. Do we need our own schools to promote this? I mean, we need to rework this educational system so
Well,
we
you
can have
need to,
institutions that
well, you need
teach what
to,
we want. And then on another tier, maybe the guys that don't want to do the academic thing, you know, have the trades that went all out, servers and things. You know, for a trade school, the guys don't mind doing that and can make great money too, you know.
a
Well, you
lot
know,
of education you get is not going to be in school. It's going to be at home.
I
It's going to
understand
be
that,
in
but
the,
I'm just
it's going to be
saying
in the community.
our schools are missing the mark. I mean, or I should say, quote unquote, public schools are. You know, they're not doing it. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking in favor of charter schools that we design that you know create an environment that
Yeah.
feel our kids.
That's why a lot of people homeschool their kids.
well, if you remember, one of the most successful schools was the school that Marva Collins had. You know, over in
Yeah.
Chicago.
In Chicago, yeah.
You know, and the thing is that it can be done, but see, we need community involvement. We need to roll up into the schools. We need to protect the schools. We need
Right.
to walk. We need to walk the halls of the schools. You know,
Okay.
we
Okay.
need to make sure
Exactly.
that our children are safe. We need to make sure that they're being taught a good curriculum, and we need to find out. We need to identify those children who are having problems and get them tutoring or try to find out, what's going on. If they got economical problems, they got, emotional problems, to identify them and put them into a situation where they can grow, and everybody else, it'll fall in, because the people that want to learn gonna learn. The people that can't learn, see, the thing is, the people that have difficulty learning, the people that have, emotional or psychological problems, it's just like the same thing in the penitentiary. Some of these people just have psychological and some emotional problems that have to be dealt with. And then when they get to the prisons, they don't have any help or anything, and then they come back out, and it just be a revolving door, back and forth, back and forth. The recidivism is what, 85, 90%, that if you go in there, you will come back.
Yeah. I have my my daughter's mother-in-law is a principal, and she's a retired principal, but she goes back from time to time and helps straighten schools out. And she said to me one time, she's been in different systems, Cleveland, different systems. And she said that, I said, well, how can you tell how kids are really doing in school? I knew you got the testing and, how the school's really doing. She said, just go to a PTA meeting.
Right.
I said, what do you mean by that? She said, you go to a PTA meeting and it's full, the kids are doing very well in that school. You say you go to a PTA meeting and there's 4 people there, say they're probably not doing so good. So your point, Mike, is well taken, and yours too, Burl, that there has to be involvement. You have to be involved in the school, in holding the teachers accountable. We don't need new schools. We need to hold the teachers accountable and make sure that they're teaching the kids what they
goes back to that village thing. Go back to that village thing, because we have gone, when my daughter was at Adams, where we took her out of John Adams and put her in a charter school. But when we went into the school, and it's like, it was a, what do they call it, a parents and teachers conference, and we were like the only parents there.
Yeah. So that, that right there too.
And then my daughter wasn't learning. She go in the front door and out the back door, and we got a report card said she had 50 absences. We said, wait, we take you to school every day. Yeah. Every day. So we took her out because the school never called us and said that she was missing or she didn't come to school this day. 50-something days. 50-something days.
Right.
We took her out of that school, put her in a charter school where if something went down, they would call.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, hopefully we've covered some issues of interest to everyone. There's some challenges, and with challenges come opportunities. So we've tried to present bring up some points and present some possible solutions to, I think, what are going to be some of the challenges and opportunities for people who are less fortunate. In closing, I would just say, go to school, get educated. You have to have a certain level of education to function in a society the way it is today. A 4-year degree, is probably not enough. I hate to say that, but it's probably not enough. You need to specialize, but it's a good start. You need to specialize. And you need to think like an entrepreneur, if you want long-term financial success. And also, as Janice said, get your education, not just in school, but, education itself, knowledge itself. Learn about your history, learn about entrepreneurship, learn about investments, financial education, so on and so forth.
Well, Robert,
I want to say something in closing.
Yeah. Like with regard to college and then higher education, you really do learn as much outside of the classroom as you do in the classroom.
You learn more.
You're just beginning, probably a lot more. But the college education degree is like a union card. It gets you in the door. It's a start. But
the 10
tools, and you go from there, and it's up to you.
The 10 top billionaires in the United States, 7 of them didn't finish college.
Tells you something, yeah.
Yeah. Mike, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. And remember, this is Black History Month. Do something, do some activity, learn something, read to your kids or have the kids read to you,
Okay.
And just pick out a couple of people every week and study them. Dr. Charles Richard Drew, or, people that made history in America that changed everything. So, you know, and stay connected with the school system and stay connected with the community, because this is the you know this is the only way we can make things better for us, you know, and our people and for the generations to come after it.
Okay, all right. Well, again, you know, we our time is up, and we thank you for yours. So until we meet again, you know, stay safe, wear your mask, and learn something new.
All right.
So
All right.
with that, we'll close. Good night.
Good night,
Good night.
y'all. Thanks.